It says I'm live. I'm sure much of you, many of you, most of you, possibly on playback, heard a lot of dead air, unless you're on Spotify. Hi, Spotify. Welcome, everyone, to the political recap stream here on the Moisky Live channel. Trups isn't here yet, but as I am the host of this week, I thought perhaps I would just start on my own, and when Trups gets here, I'll get a jump scare, and we can continue the show with him present. Before we start, I want to thank everyone that has followed us over on Spotify. We have recently hit 106 followers, which is absolutely fantastic news. We are genuinely very grateful for that, and look forward to more of you perhaps considering following us there as well. We are going to try and improve the audio quality, I promise. And yes, I am on time. Thank you, Discnough, for pointing that out. Obvious. Great. Yes, Trups isn't here yet. He's driving home. So I thought I'd start on my own. Yay me. Hello to everyone in the chat. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. I hope you're looking forward to your weekend. There are a number of things that have happened this week, much of which I'd like to discuss with Trups, but I thought what I'd do is start with what is currently going on in UK politics. A lot of this. Oh, hi.
Eyes here. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. I'll switch set. There we go. Yes. I'm not going to redo the greetings and all that. How's Trups this week?
Trups is okay. Trups just ran up the stairs.
You didn't have to run up the stairs for me.
Oh, I've run up the stairs for everyone here.
Oh, that's lovely. We're all honoured.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say was this week has been rather interesting in the UK because we've had by-elections, but these by-elections are a huge litmus test. On top of that, the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Parliament and UK English councils, which aren't the same, but you know what, let's just say they are, have been going through a election. And a lot of it is still being counted. The London mayoral contest is also quite close. Sadiq Khan has a 1% lead. That is it. Against the Conservative, who I've never heard of. All I've seen on the Twitter this week is people just character assassinate a guy because he's a Conservative. Because he doesn't represent real black people in England because he votes Conservative. Huh. Thank you to Stair Runner Appreciation for the $5 donation to Trups. Thank you indeed. That was very kind of you for that.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for appreciating my stair running.
All this week in the UK on Twitter, we've had Hartlepool be the main focus of this because it's a proper by-election. An MP stands there. Did. And this election is a test for Keir Starmer's version of Labour. 1 second. Thank you, Meh. It's very kind of you for the donation. And
I get stair runner appreciation. You get meh.
George Soros says thanks. So in Hartlepool, we are trying to find out whether or not Keir Starmer's New Labour, his version of Labour, not New Labour, that was Blair, is the direction that the public want Labour to go. And so all this week, what we have seen has come from the likes of Owen Jones pointing out that Labour won Hartlepool in 2017 and 2019. So under Corbyn, they did quite well, which in fact did have Corbyn held Hartlepool trending. I would have images, by the way, of this, but I have developed a weird shaky hand this evening, so I couldn't actually drag the mouse completely. I think it's like a trigger finger thing. My hand twitched. Just wouldn't settle. Might be old age. But yes, for the last however many years under Corbyn, they held. But Owen Jones was a bit angry because polls were showing that Jill Mortimer, the Conservative candidate, would win by a landslide of 50% over Labour's 33%. Now, yes, there are other parties. You've got the Monster Raving Lunatic Party. Sure. And so all week we've had these charts thrown in our faces. And you've had all week Brexit Party trending, racism trending, Boris must go, Keir must go. Well, so what happened here is people don't seem to understand how the Conservatives managed to win this. They won Hartlepool. Some have immediately said Keir Starmer has to go. I disagree, by the way. I think this is just another sign for him to then take as a message his party has to change direction because the current trajectory does not align with the majority of Labour voters who are from now Conservative land that was once Labour heartlands voting Conservative because the Labour Party doesn't represent them. But the actual problem is, people forgot what happened in 2019 and why people voted the way they did, because in 2019 Labour actually were going to lose it to Conservatives then. But the reason they didn't is because people voted for the Brexit Party. If you added the Brexit Party votes and the Conservative votes together, the Conservatives won by 55%.
I remember, real quick, not too long ago, and I've actually made this a point when talking with other people in my day-to-day life.
Yes.
But didn't the UK just have an election not too long ago where they had a historic conservative flip of some seats that hadn't been conservative in, if I remember correctly, hundreds of years?
Some had never been.
Right, okay.
But yes, Labour Heartlands, which is like up north, the workers, the working class, they voted Conservative because of Brexit. Simple as that. And they've stayed this way. Go on.
And your Labour shills are basically trying to say that, well, technically Labour won, ignoring this glaring issue that, well, obviously the country individually, the different regions thought a little bit differently, so much so that they flipped a bunch of seats. Am I gathering all of that correctly? And am I understanding the delusion of Labour right now?
You are. Well, some of Labour. I would say, for the sake of it, I don't believe a vast majority fully understand what's happened. And so Hartlepool has gone to Labour, but that's not the only problem. For Labour, there are other issues, and it comes from other elections, which would include council results, which are still ongoing, I believe. So of like 143 councils, I guess you'd call those counties, by the way, we have only 76 of those results in. The Conservatives have a lead of over 400 at the moment. That obviously will change depending on the region, yes. In Wales, 38 of 60 seats have been called. Labour are winning. Yes, there's not really been much of a change in that. Scotland, 48 of 129. The SNP have 39 seats. You need 65 for a majority. But they haven't. While they've taken a couple seats off the likes of the Conservatives, they haven't actually taken other seats off other people that they were genuinely trying to get those seats from, which is quite interesting.
So they won but failed.
Well, they're looking to win, but the argument is they might not. They might not get the vast majority they want. So back to Labour, people are trying to say that he has to go. I've got too many tabs open. Where is it? I had an article. Okay, so some are saying it's just a setback. Others have tried to analyse and say that it's just going to be it was a blame game. Others pointing out there was a 10,000 vote for Brexit Party, and that's where Labour have lost their voters. Others pointing out that Labour, the version of Labour back then with Corbyn, does not represent the heartlands. Therefore, it was irrelevant anyway. But because they haven't distanced themselves properly from it, Boris is more appealing. Who has been in Hartlepool celebrating with a massive blow-up thing of himself, and I'm not joking, it's ridiculous. I'm quite.
Oh my god, like a wacky waving inflatable arm throwing
Yeah,
cheese man.
I tried to pull the article, but my internet crapped out, so I decided not to pull any additional articles for the sake of the stream. Some have taken to Twitter and have gone with the oh, so the main topic I put for today was the France Britain thing, but I'm sure there's some other stuff that will probably be more interesting. But interesting with the hashtag that was trending, War with France, people have noticed that today trending, instead of it being War with France, it was Stockholm Syndrome alongside the hashtag Election Results 2021, which I think is quite appropriate for today, because the amount of cope coming from the likes of Owen Jones is astonishing. I did post a video where he sort of discussed this. Like, he believes Labour has no vision, but Labour didn't have. But he fully supported people like Corbyn. Yet when it came to Brexit, Corbyn didn't have a vision, did he? How can you support someone whose only solution was to spend money? That's really socialist of him, of course, comrade. But the point still stands. That's his main gripe. He believes that this electoral incident is a catastrophe, something which Keir Starmer has taken responsibility for, and I think that's the right thing to do. You know, he lost. Good man, take your lumps, move on. Change your party, because clearly it's not going to work. And you can't.
I just love hearing stories where Owen Jones is spurging.
I'm looking at his Twitter. Honestly,
it makes me so happy because he is such a lolcow.
So he's been retweeting the likes of John McDonnell, who was the Shadow Chancellor for Jeremy Corbyn, and he also is just taking a shot at he's taking shots at Keir Starmer by pointing out he also doesn't seem to have a policy, a party policy that the people can relate to. Which I can understand that. But then I look at electoral results and I notice that, I'll be honest, they were going down anyway. Voter turnout in this election was like 44%. It wasn't that good. So the votes weren't going to be that great in the first place. It's nowhere near the levels of, I'd say, 1979, which is like their peak, I think, or 1966 based on what I'm seeing here. Where the vote turnout was like, let's see, just over 60,000. No, 55,000, sorry. And that includes both Tories and Labour. That doesn't include any other parties, but that depends on when those other parties were introduced, and they're not included in the charts I have on his timeline. Out of curiosity, what do you think one by-election... I know you don't do. I don't think you do similar things, do you? I can't remember a Congress.
So we have a varying system. We have a system that essentially has a kind of a staggered system for our politicians.
Right.
In that we have some that won't be up for election for 2 years or 6 years, and then in between those times we have some people who resign and therefore stagger the changeover even more so.
So that what I mean to ask is, if someone is forced to resign midway during their term, does someone just take their place, or do you vote for them?
There is a vote.
Is it by the people or is it by others?
Yes.
Right. So, do you think, then, let's play this as England, America, Congress, MP, yeah? Do you believe this loss for the respective opposition is in any way an indicator of a party message when it's the only one that's happened in 2 years?
I wouldn't use a single instance of anything as too much more than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like try to make a mountain out of a molehill, or it's not relevant in the sense that it's not a good sample. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I tend to agree. While I'm fully willing to accept that Labour had held this for a few years, a few decades maybe, they were going to lose these anyway because Labour isn't really working with the people. And that's a big issue because they're genuinely busy pandering still, which is not going to work outside of the more densely populated cities. You're not going to win a country or a general election if all you do is win the cities anyway. In our country, it's first past the post by constituencies. You've got to appeal to the majority of people, not to those cities. Because there isn't enough of them, I promise you that. And also this one by-election, it does say at present the message doesn't resonate in Hartlepool, but the numbers were showing that they were swinging towards the Conservatives 2 years ago. It will take time. It will take time to regrow that and rebuild it, regardless, because the people aren't going to suddenly think in 2 years, because we're not America here. We don't suddenly think after 2 years, yeah, you've got to go. We give you 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, the 2 years is just for House reps.
I know. Well, yes, but your House reps are the equivalent to our MPs. And yet we don't have a Senate.
Like
our Senate is our House.
Councillors.
Your Senate, no, councillors below that. Your Senate is our equivalent to House of Lords. But not at the same time.
Yeah. It's the closest we get.
Yeah, it's the closest we get. They don't really have much power. I think your Senate has a fair amount more power than our House of Lords.
Yeah, what they used to call the Senate was the cooling saucer.
That's what I remember hearing. Yeah,
where they would call the House, remarking about how they should essentially be putting up bills most of the time for consideration. The Senate would be the people who would essentially sit and kind of mull it over.
Mm-hmm.
That was the original, the way that I was taught it in civics class. Flash forward a couple of years and I realized that is not the case.
Yeah. So in the YouTube chat, someone has pointed out that at the moment the Sadiq Khan is behind the current. Oh, what's his name? Sean Bailey, is that it? I don't know. No, it's not Sean Bailey, is it? No. Yeah, it is. He has more than 5,000 vote lead over Sadiq Khan in the race to be mayor. Now, this should be announced by tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it will be a guy I've never heard of, a Conservative MP, or Conservative mayoral candidate, over the former Tooting guy. No lie, some of the policies with Sadiq, by the way, it's just because it fascinates me. He introduced a bunch of policies that are quite unpopular, and because it's election season, he has then decided maybe I should cut them so no one knows that it was me that introduced them. They're really unpopular, but I'll get rid of them. Okay.
The internet is forever.
Yeah, and it's been mentioned in the chat by Yorkshire Tom. May do the Trump thing and swing back in the second round there. It's possible. It's too early to say. And there's a lot of votes in London to count. I did see that Nico, a YouTuber, Nico, he's got 2% of the vote so far. I think it was 2%. I was very happy with that. Very happy with that, because it's very funny. I had Lawrence Fox, I don't think is doing that well. And Lord Binman? Is that his name? Oh, what's his name?
Oh, no.
No, Count Binface, that's it. So he's on Twitter, #VoteBinface, because Buckethead he couldn't use. No lie, it's a full-on cosplay. The guy's put out a video with hundreds of thousands of views on it, on his Twitter.
I'm so proud of him.
I could play the video so everyone can hear it. It's a minute long. I can't play the video. I can play the audio. So let's turn that right up.
Hello, London.
I can't play that. No, it's got an Avengers sort of instrumental in the background. No. I can't risk it.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, but he looks fantastic. His manifesto is amusing, and he's got some votes as well, I believe. Why on earth did I yawn at the most inopportune moment? My apologies, everyone. My apologies. Perhaps I wasn't breathing enough. Yeah, it's going to be spicy. I was hoping they would have finished that and announced today, but it turns out they don't count votes overnight during the mayoral election. as they started counting at 7 a.m. this morning, which I find quite strange. But hopefully we'll know whether it's Sean Bailey or Sadiq Khan. Now, I don't know if Sadiq wins, I don't believe he can run for a third term. I think they only have 2 terms as mayor. No offence to Sadiq. I really hope you don't get a second term. That's not to say the other guy's any better. I don't know anything about him. I just no one likes you, Sadiq, because you waste money.
Sadiq, you're a pandering shithead.
He is. He panders. He pushes agendas that the majority don't actually support. He wastes money. Money meant for like property development. What does he spend it on? Ads and PR opportunities. And that's okay. Yes, maybe he did spend some in the right area. You have a ginormous problem with knife crime, and you refuse to introduce stop and search because you considered it racist. Yet, when it was pulled out, i.e. stop and search was stopped, the knife crime numbers went through the roof. Last year, if I remember correctly, in 2020, before lockdown, we had more murders committed by knives than, was it the entire Manhattan? It was a stupid number that was higher than New York City, or something to that effect. God, I don't remember it now. I think it was that. It was something ridiculous. The knife crime number was so high; it was higher than one of the cities that is also known for knife crime. And I think it was New York.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it were New York.
I think we spoke about it. I just can't remember specifically.
We've spoken about knife crime versus gun crime a couple times, so.
And we've spoken about, and it's become a growing trend. It's that thing of if there is control, then the crime goes up. If the rules are more relaxed, the crime goes down. Because people know they can. It's the open carry thing as well, isn't it? In states where the highest gun crime exists is where the strictest gun control law exists, and yet the lowest gun crime is in the states where there is the least amount of gun control, like Vermont. Doesn't Vermont have like the lowest? I remember Styx talking about that.
So.
I think it was.
I feel like Vermont would have the lowest.
Styx was the one I think I mentioned it in a video, and when I used to watch him, I don't have time to watch all his videos, and he mentioned this as a point, and I just thought, that's pretty much the knife thing as well. We should all be allowed to carry swords, all right? I'm okay with this.
I still think that we should what's it called? Revive the art of dueling. If you
duel?
Yeah. Well, when somebody says that what was it? If somebody infringes on your honor, or
I slap him with a white glove.
You, yeah, fucking throw down.
Let's
find
go.
that people would probably be a little less dickish.
You, sir? I challenge you to a duel. That's a very... In fact, it's the only way to say that in England. You have to say it like Hugh Laurie. It's perfection. I fully support this message. In fact, I hope everyone also agrees. So I just want to quickly mention, because I noticed it in the chat, Georgia is an open carry state. I'm semi-surprised that hasn't been changed already, but then I guess it wouldn't, because it turns out it doesn't matter if you're red or blue. A lot of people in those swing states, or a lot of states, most states, from what I've heard, don't touch their guns.
Mm-hmm.
Never touch their guns. Yeah. I don't have much more to add on the election thing, to be honest, because it's ongoing when it comes to Scotland, Wales, and the English council seats. I would say, for the sake of it, as far as the council seats go, it wasn't hugely published around here. There was one Labour sign I saw. One. And I also saw it when a car went past with a bat and smashed that thing out of the ground. I was just glad it was 10 steps in front of me and it wasn't my head. Because that would have bent the bat and it would have been a waste of a good bat, okay?
Yes, quite.
So, I have a couple things I've got down here. And I wanted to know what you think. because they're all
For
America. They're all America. One is that Biden is considering the waiver of patents for COVID jabs. And he's trying to encourage other countries, and by the way, EU, UK, loads of other countries have said, fuck off!
Okay, so this was an interesting one because there's actually another bit of story that goes along with it.
Oh.
So with the patent going on for the vaccine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out China had already stolen it.
That doesn't surprise me.
And it's very, very interesting to find out that they're doing this whole, patent thing. I don't know how I feel about like trying to own this vaccine. I don't know if anybody actually owns like the polio vaccine.
It's gene therapy.
What is gene therapy?
Not a vaccine.
Okay, well.
Don't worry, I'm just being a
don't know.
dick.
Okay, I'm like, I legitimately don't know, so like, I will take what you say.
It's for the sake of it. I've taken great issue with the word vaccine being used with jabs that have been administered because they are not vaccinations under the definition of what a vaccination is. So okay. I'm just being a facetious dick because the misuse of a word is being wrongly applied, and it's been wrongly applied and popularized, and I find that to be highly egregious.
So okay, can you explain that a little bit more?
No.
For my own sake. Oh,
sorry, no. It's the thing of what is the purpose of think of all the vaccines you have had in your lifetime and what they have done and what they have served. This one doesn't do that. This one at best suppresses symptoms to make sure you don't suffer as much. That's not the same. Okay. Now, there is an argument that some vaccines that you have received don't stop you catching, and therefore, yes, that argument can be made. Doesn't stop my argument originally doesn't stop it being incorrect, or being correct, sorry. It really doesn't. And so I take issue with it. So what do you with the vaccine patent issue? Where do you stand on it? Do you think it should be waived?
I don't think that anybody should own this, honestly.
See, I can understand that, but I also can understand the companies that have invested billions in developing this needing to make back what they put into it.
Yeah, but they were developed under government funding.
I didn't know that.
So, a lot of them were they were facilitated with additional government subsidies to do this work. Like,
does that
Operation
include
Warp Speed?
Oh, please finish. I was going to say, fuck it, you first.
Fuck, Warp Speed basically helped fund them.
So my query was, you mentioned that the government funded the research, yes?
Yeah.
Does that include the production of it? Because I don't think that's the same thing. It's not in the EU. So. Yes, in the EU, it's definitely not that, because those are being funded. They're having to get the stuff and import it from all over the place. They have contracts to provide, but beyond that, I don't know if there's profit in that. I don't know what the deal is and what the cost of constructing these jabs is.
Well, okay. So in that case, what I would say is they probably helped fund the development of it, but I think production and I would maybe say the overhead for like the actual business probably wasn't government funded. But basically what I'm thinking of it is essentially like a government contract in a sense.
Yeah.
Where typically there's a provision in a contract when you create something for other people, and it is essentially a declaration of ownership, right? So, okay, I build this program for, let's say I built like a database service for X company. In the contract, I would say, okay, yes, I'm building this for you. However, all IPs belong to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, anytime you would want to update or edit it, you would have to go through me. Or I could say, I don't care. I've built this for you. This is yours. Everything about it is yours. Do with as you please.
Yeah.
Because I have done that when I was a senior in college. I basically was like, here, take this, because I had a buddy who was actually the IT director, and I was like, here's how this works. If you have to edit anything, do this.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, cool, okay. And he got me a job.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, I can understand and appreciate the sentiment of your position being, I don't believe people should. Yeah, I agree. I can totally understand that. The timing, though, is a tad odd.
Okay.
Because the idea is to waive the patents to give other people the chance to develop it themselves, which in turn is a bit of a it's offering an olive branch, knowing that the olive branch is going to be taken and warped, misused, and abused, which is a trust issue. I think many people also take. So when I know like India is genuinely struggling, my view is if you can help them, send them the help. Yes, but
Right.
it should not be by giving them the recipe under the pretense that they can also just make it. Because if anyone can then have access to that because the patent is waived, anyone's going to try and make it, and they're going to offer up some kind of miracle mineral cure.
I see.
And I think that's a concern I think many other countries have had, because it's a trust issue. Some, I would say for the sake of it, the UK Conservatives said, fuck off, businesses, we like private business, essentially. So there's a point there. But in other EU, it was a standards issue, I think, for them as well, to make sure that the vaccine was of the correct yield. There was
So what I would say then, like I understand like the concern about it. I also understand like, I mean, let's put it this way: these four companies that currently have FDA approved vaccines,
yeah.
they put in a lot of man hours, a lot of work to develop this from original SARS information as well as the new information that came out from COVID.
Yeah.
So to basically say, okay, thank you for all your help. We're taking your documents and we're throwing it to the wind. I feel like that needs to be a question that's the company's decision. But the company isn't going to want to per se do that, because I mean that's their stock value, right?
Yeah.
Like their value is also because of this. At the same time, they may be kowtowed into doing that, because if they do protect their interests, then they look like greedy, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that answers
So
my.
you have a double-edged sword here. I don't think there is a way out of it without. There's no clean break from this.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And when I know President Biden has suggested doing this, the majority of other countries have said no. I don't think he can lead. He can lead on this one by example if he'd like. That would look good, certainly in America, to anyone that isn't involved in big business. I guess the next query in America that I have then is, I saw a tweet by Alex Padilla. Thank you. The 40 million of us who call California home don't deserve to have our priorities sabotaged in the Senate because of an arcane procedural rule rooted in white supremacy. We must eliminate the filibuster. Retweet if you agree.
Oh no, Anthony Padilla is supporting the abolition of the filibuster. Oh, I'm sorry. Alex Padilla. There is an Anthony.
Is there?
There is. Yeah, just to make sure I have the right guy, I'm going to look it up, because I don't want to think that it's okay. No, okay. Anthony Padilla, he's a YouTuber.
Oops.
And I was like, who the fuck? When did he decide to get political? Okay, no, this is a senator from California. This makes more sense. Okay, no, okay, that makes sense, and also full of shit. So the filibuster, okay, has a very interesting fucking history in this country, including but not limited to the Democrats having supported the presence of the filibuster, right? So there's even a quote from Obama saying that the filibuster is a necessary and important tool that essentially keeps the government running in a functional way, that a party can't just take over the House and the Senate and the presidency and just ramrod everything through. Obama even said that it was an important thing that the filibuster maintain, its thing, right? I have a bunch of then and nows even from, let's see here. Let's do with Cory Booker. Then, January 2019. We should not be doing anything to mess with the strength of the filibuster. It's one of the distinguishing factors of this body, and I think it is good to have the power of the filibuster. If Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, Donald Trump for the last 2 years had complete sway, they wouldn't have just changed policy, which is nice. They would have hurt people in my community. Now, for the sake of our vulnerable populations, the filibuster has to be reformed. And there's a bunch of other ones too, but I'm not going to go through them all.
That's
but
fair.
basically, they're in power, so of course they want to get rid of it.
Well, it's the same thing with the Biden administration have now come out and openly said they back the idea of DC becoming a state, forgetting that by doing so, the White House would then have to be moved somewhere else where it's not a state.
Yeah, because that's the whole point. And actually, DC has laws that you're actually not allowed to even discriminate on somebody based on their political views. So in DC, it is actually a law that if let's say I was a Republican senator and I walked into an establishment owned by a staunch liberal, they could not refuse service to me because they disagree with my politics.
Right.
Which is the intention. DC was created as a neutral entity, ideally. But that since has gone by the wayside.
It's quite astonishing because it's still in the Senate, and I don't support this in the slightest. Mostly because the moving cost of moving the White House and the Secret Service and all that, it's going to take a lot of money. Unless you intend to turn all of DC, except for the White House, into a state. But then you have to create a new DC, I guess, at that point. So you have DC and new DC.
Right, you would. Well, originally the capital was in Philadelphia. They moved that.
Well, I guess we need to move it somewhere else. Might I recommend a small little island called Alcatraz.
I mean, if you guys really want to make it somewhat fucking interesting, we could put it in Puerto Rico.
Thank you for the £3 donation. The solution, and I agree, Puerto Rico is a great idea.
It's just, if you want, Puerto Rico doesn't, they're kind of mixed on their opinion of statehood. Hey, why don't we just put the capital there?
Why not?
Oh, right. Probably because hurricanes.
That sounds like a them problem.
Probably, yeah, well, that's true.
And by that, I mean the White House moving there and being that, then yeah. I would say,
correct.
If you have to build a new White House there, you need to let us come over and torch the place first. Then you know it's a real White House.
Fuck you.
Get some Irish to build it as well.
We built that thing so many more times after that, and we built it so much bigger, and then we fucking put barricades around it. Oh god! And then in 2021 we put more barricades around.
Yeah.
No, we have a bunch of these like Star Fort things, which is apparently popular back then. It's very interesting.
I have
a lot of history actually.
Oh really? One more really big American thing.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, Facebook.
Oh, no. Yes.
Thoughts?
Okay. So I had a very long argument. I like getting into arguments on Facebook, as you know.
do.
Um, and I had a great time in the last 3 days. Basically telling people that what was it? The Tyrion Lannister quote, where if you cut out a man's tongue, you do not prove him a liar. You only prove that you are afraid what he might say. Something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, that's pretty much the quote.
And people got mad that I said that. Because they still believe that he espoused hateful rhetoric that incited violence. One person going so far as to say that he incited a murderous insurrection. And I was so happy they said those words. I was so damn happy. I was like, murderous insurrection, huh? Fun story about that. Which person did they murder? Was it Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by Capitol Police, being an unarmed protester, albeit trying to get into a secured location? All details withheld, by the way. Was it Brian Sicknick, who originally was reported to have had his head beat in by a fire extinguisher? I had even said that on this show at the time. And I was wrong at that point. Turns out, no, he actually had gotten hit with bear mace and then died the evening after from 2 strokes. And the medical examiner's office dubbed it death from natural causes because they couldn't find either an allergic reaction to the chemical substance, which was essentially bear mace, or any outside abrasions or impact wounds. So, yeah, no, he died of 2 strokes. Or the other 3 people who were all Trump supporters who all died of heart attacks or other complications.
During the week, I used Arcta's video about some cringy TikToks so I could help grow his channel, but also make a really
I saw that.
yeah.
I enjoyed that
and
video,
he mentioned the insurrection issue about who died, but it wasn't mentioned the actual cause of death. He mentioned that people who got shot, and the fact that everyone else just went home. They just went home. That is a very almost British sounding insurrection. We just turn up, make a little mess, and then go home.
Yeah, it sounded either very British or very Canadian.
I do want to... yeah, true. Well, they are just us, but light. So, the Democrats on Twitter, their official Twitter, retweet if you agree. Facebook should permanently, highlighted permanently, ban Donald Trump. And the ratio of comments to retweets, it's like 3-to-1 comments to retweets. And a lot of people pointing out that the Democratic Party, and even though these people themselves don't like Trump, the Democratic Party, Democrats don't seem to support the First Amendment. They seem to be pro censorship from big private corp or in the stock market nonsense companies, publicly traded. Is that it? Whatever. Private companies, let's call them that. Censoring when it's censoring when it suits them. And others then saying you'd be smart if you were to oppose this as a matter of free speech, but you'll double down your willingness just to step on the Constitution when it aligns with your echo chamber of opinions guised as progressive thought. I'm going to like that tweet because I like it. It's correct. And others, many others point, some saying this is called election interference, and others saying, are Democrats even American anymore? And then then a vast swath also saying, because I'm scrolling through here, I was not expecting the official DNC Twitter to post something like this. Because what's happened is a tribunal inquiry, whatever it was called, has agreed with the ruling of Facebook, but of banning Trump. But they've opened the door by saying Facebook needs to review certain aspects of their policy, which means that it's possible Trump could in fact get his Facebook back in 6 months. Not that I think he'd use it, because what's the fucking point?
Right. So essentially, this tribunal was a court, if you will, set up by Facebook to essentially look at themselves.
Self-elate.
Hmm. But the group actually did not support them as well as they wanted, because I'm pretty sure ideally Facebook would have been much happier if the council had said, no, they did nothing wrong. But
Yeah,
they didn't. They kicked it back to them because they didn't want to be responsible for it.
yeah, and understandably, the policy they used and cited was very like it was instantaneous, and there was no like it was almost like a Twitch ban. There's no oversight. There's no information.
Well, one of the criticisms from the council essentially was you need to enforce your rules consistently, and you need to make them clear. You don't do that. And I was like, damn, you just got called out by your own fucking people.
I'll be honest. I at that point when I'd heard that, I thought that was. I mean, it's a damn moment, yeah, sure, but it was actually I'm actually impressed that people were able to that it made Facebook look like it was introspecting or being fair within its own process.
For a moment, they did.
For a moment, yes. I mean, it's possible he'll get his platform back. Doesn't Trump use another platform? Does he use Gab or something?
He just made a new platform, which was it's called From the Desk of Donald Trump, and it's basically it's a website that he posts his own stuff to. That was actually the catalyst. I don't know if you've seen this thing trending in news or on Twitter.
No,
but a bunch of accounts actually had tried to post those messages on behalf of Trump.
they got pulled in,
and
there.
I think they all got pulled. And I mean, there were dozens upon dozens.
I know there is a Gab account that reposts all his stuff because they did it when he was on Twitter. I'm sure they still do it now. I don't follow anyone on Gab, so I couldn't say for certain. But I anything that mentions him is going to get pulled because of that political bias. Because he incited an insurrection. When, I'm sorry, but the majority of us all saw the same thing. He told them not to.
Yeah.
And when he said in tweets, when he said the word fight in tweets, he never at any point said physical violence. No, he used a word that everyone uses, fight. But we can't look at
it doesn't actually matter. The truth of the situation is irrelevant because these people actually don't care. Like, for example, Twitter banned all those other accounts for ban evasion. None of them were written by Trump. So Trump's not evading a ban, which means that somebody else making the account to post other people's comments.
Yeah.
You can't enforce that rule on another person saying that you are ban evading when they aren't the ones who got banned. But again, it doesn't matter what the rules say. They will interpret them and use them as they see fit. It no longer really matters. Like, it's the same thing with YouTube, Google, Facebook. Everyone's the same. The rules don't actually matter. The points are made up and the rules don't matter. Fucking whose line is it anyway? And it's just if you have the wrong opinion. If you're big enough, it won't matter. But right now, Crowder is being the test of that, as he is still trying to fight against some of the injustices that he got with some lawsuits. That's going to be fun to watch when that finally drops.
Oh, that's going to be hilarious.
I'm gonna enjoy the fuck out of it.
He should win.
I hope he does, because I can't even pretend to say that the Supreme Court would probably back him if it went all the way up there. Because realistically, the Supreme Court is full of shit too.
Well, at least you're honest.
Looks like, unfortunately, I'm looking at my political institutions in this country right now, and all I can see right now is a whole bunch of do-nothings and Marxists and psychos. They're basically they're intentionally perverting our Constitution, our rules, our laws. Antifa just this week, there was a report that a whole bunch of them got let off of felony charges. Meanwhile, there are still FBI investigations going after the people who were just at DC during the insurrection. They kicked in a woman's door in Alaska because she looked like somebody who was at the insurrection. It wasn't her.
Hope they apologized.
Probably not. But no, it doesn't matter. We have entered into the level of your metropolitan police, where they just kick in doors and do things as they fucking please. And it's gotten to a point now where there are conservatives who are starting to snap to attention. And that's bad. Because I'm not talking politicians, I'm talking people. One of the biggest, let's just say the examples of people getting fed up. So let's see here. Was it yesterday? No, it's 2 days ago. South Lake City, Utah. Leaders, educators, and parents react to school board meeting that was ended by an anti-mask protest. Do you know anything about this?
No.
Okay, so in Utah, the Board of Ed was going to compel its students who are going to be returning to the classroom to continue to wear masks until middle of June or so. I think it was of next year. Because concern for coronavirus.
No.
Right. It went 10 minutes before the parents got into a shouting match with the Board of Ed. And it ended with them chanting, "No more masks, no more masks." And I was listening to some of the yelling before the chanting started, and it was angry.
That doesn't surprise me.
It was very, very angry.
Mm-hmm.
The governor has since said that he will not renew the mask mandate for schools starting this fall, but I don't know if that's enough for these people. But essentially, you have an entire group of parents at this point who are sick and tired of, well, for one, controversial or otherwise confusing guidelines.
Yeah.
And examples. And statistics and we'll say evidence not matching up with those guidelines. What I mean by that is, right now they are having a hard time explaining. If somebody asks the question, if I have a COVID vaccination, if I'm fully vaccinated, can I transmit the virus? Researchers are having a hard time saying yes or no. At the moment, they're like, yes, we think so. Because technically, these vaccines have a 95% efficacy rate, right? So there's still a 5% that they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I was reading some of the research the other day, it was essentially them talking about how the symptoms have been reduced highly if you have these vaccinations. And asymptomatic COVID is still a big mystery to them. Excuse me, drinking. But they don't know if it's transmittable or how it works. What they've been using as a metric is viral load, essentially. So it's how much of the virus is present in your sinuses, essentially, in the mucous membranes.
Okay.
And what they found is that some people who have had the vaccinations, who have had positive tests, have a lesser viral load. So they are currently trying to ascertain what is the number that makes you contagious, right? So if a lot of viral load makes it very contagious and a little bit of viral load isn't contagious, what's the number that they have to pass through to make that contagious? That's the part that they're trying to figure out. and they haven't really gotten to it yet. Okay, cool. So if that's what they're currently trying to go at and figure out and study, and you've got a 95% efficacy rate for vaccinations, and you have a 99.962% chance as a person under 18 of not dying from COVID, why are kids being compelled to wear masks?
It looks more like a PR stunt. Solidarity with the rest of the world until the rest of the world is cured thing.
I think part of that is true. I have seen some tweets talking about how people talking about taking off their masks is insensitive to what's happening in India. I was like, wow, I feel like I just ran a marathon with those fucking mental gymnastics.
When I read one of those tweets, I was literally leaving a shop and I still took my mask off. Because I didn't want to wear it anymore, okay?
I mean, it's no, I don't think anybody in India is like, this motherfucker.
Yeah, how dare they have a slightly better system and less death.
Yeah, how dare they not be the ones suffering?
Mm-hmm.
That's 2020 in a nutshell right there. How dare they not be the ones suffering?
I think we all want to forget 2020 at this point, don't we?
Yeah. So I think part of it is that they are trying to work with other countries and not look like assholes. But
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that there is a large percentage of people in this country that do not have the stones to come out of their houses, figuratively speaking, to come out of the COVID hysteria that has gripped this nation. There are some people who have, after having been through this whole process, are saying that they will never not go out in public with a mask ever again because, well, just why not? If I could avoid getting sick by just wearing a mask when I go outside, like, cool. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine for you. You can do that. My problem is when you compel other people to do it, or you make a fucking viral video calling somebody a racist white supremacist because they didn't wear a mask inside of a goddamn Publix. Yeah, that's the difference though, and they're not. They are willfully ignoring that when they push this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know necessarily what's going to go on with the Utah thing because this is relatively new. I'm kind of excited to see where this goes because we have had a very interesting. It's been slowly pushing on parents with the whole schooling thing. So many parents want to be. I don't want to say rid of their kids for the
No,
day,
they don't be rid of their
but,
kids. They all do.
Part of it is definitely that.
Do you have
but
any
the other
idea
part of
how
it-
excited parents here were when their kids went back to school? Honestly, my sisters, they were so relaxed. It was a good day for them.
Well, I don't know. I don't have kids. I don't know it.
Nor do I, but
but
it's nice to see them smile. Let's go with that.
that is not the best advertisement for having kids. Just saying.
It is. It's not about having the kids. It's the consequences of them.
Well, right, but that's the same thing, really.
No.
One leads to the other. Like, kids are great, except for the first 18 years of their fucking lives.
Well, that's it. They are an absolute nightmare until they leave, and that's the point. It's still rewarding once they get there. It's just the journey between people hate. A lot of people like to skip to the end, and I can totally respect that.
Think of it as any other circumstance. Like, I love my friends when they're not around.
No.
When they show up, fuck them. God damn, I can't stand them.
I can understand the sentiment of that, but actually, there's a point similar to that is similar to having kids. It's the argument of too much of them. Now, being a parent is a full-time commitment. Being a friend, not a full-time commitment, but you do spend time with each other, and that time is cherished, provided it isn't too much. And the same can be said for when you have kids. We all need that personal time. And so when you have kids, if you're stuck in lockdowns with them, that, like, if you were stuck in with your friends, is stretched thin. Thank you, bribe, for the $5 donation to Trups. I didn't see the message. I do apologize.
Thank you. Appreciate it. No, that's a good point. And yeah, I concede that you have a good point.
So I want to move on because there's actually one subject left to talk about, and we've just hit the hour mark. It's the main event. It's what's taken over the United Kingdom all week. France went to war with England.
Oh yes, good.
Maritime warfare. What happened was, one of the Channel Islands, which is a crown dependency off the coast of France, Saint Jersey, the largest of the Channel Islands, took its time approving certain licenses which would enable certain fishermen in France access to their waters. Well, because of this, France had threatened to take retaliatory action by cutting off the power to Jersey, because Jersey's electricity comes from France via an underwater cable. The fishermen decided, French ones, 100 of their fishing boats were going to blockade the access port of St. Helier, which is Jersey's main port. And Boris Johnson had a conversation with Jersey's Chief Minister, John Lefrange, about this blockade. And the Navy at the time were going to monitor the situation as a precaution over this argument because of post-Brexit rules. And it's because these post-Brexit rules, these French fishermen got a bit salty. And so because of that, these 100 boats decided, no fam, we're going to blockade now. So Boris Johnson decided to send 2 vessels, the HMS Tamar, which has a 30mm MK44 Bushmaster cannon, which is great for fishing boats. It's a batch 2 vessel, and it also sent the HMS Seven to conduct maritime security patrols. It's equipped with 20mm cannons and 7.62mm machine guns, which is fantastic. People have drawn comparisons to this, by the way, to the 1970s with what others are remembered as the Cod Wars, because at the time the Royal Navy had stopped Icelandic boats from interfering with British trawlers. And there's a similarity, except, and many people would have seen this, memes of fishing boats, British fishing boats and French ones, literally crashing into each other. Not a joke, they actually were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
France decided to respond to this by sending one of their own Navy ships. The head of Normandy Sea Authority had actually said, "We are ready for war. We can bring Jersey to its knees." He sent...
Why?
Macron even backed this by then sending a military boat. But the boat in question is a bit underwhelming. Our 2 ships are easily more than a match. He may as well have sent a dinghy of immigrants, which would have done more damage.
That's Somalia.
You're right, they're pirates. There are some fantastic images, memes, and GIFs of what happened. And honestly, all this because of because of Brexit, a delay in these licenses. It's fantastic, right?
Basically, whenever we talk about France and the UK here, all I can ever think of is that you guys have like this strange little brother complex, or like they have a strange little brother complex with y'all, where if they don't get their way, they cry, as if like their big brother just like beat them in fucking Super Smash Bros. And like they're mad and they're calling mom. Because they try to fight back and they fail. Would
you like some statistics on the HMS Tamar, the HMS Seven, and French's FFFS Athos? Their
I
vessels.
would love some. You know me and love military.
So, the HMS Tamar is a river-class offshore patrol vessel. Displacement 2,000 tons. Length 300 feet. Beam 43 feet. Its top speed 25 knots. Propulsion, it's a man engine. It's fine. Construction is BAE Systems naval ships. It was launched in 2018. Its armament is a 1 Bushmaster, 2 general-purpose machine guns, and 2 miniguns. Crew 60. HMS 7 is 1,677 tons. Its length is 260 feet, 44 feet beam. It has where was it? It was made in 2002, so it's an older model, and it has one. I can't pronounce the word OERLIKON. I don't know what that is. It's a cannon, though. 2 general-purpose machine guns. But it's okay. Let's say Likon 20mm cannon. Okay, French's ship. The French, right? So this really gives you the scope of what's going on here. Class Athos class patrol boat. Displacement 108 tons. Length 97 feet. It's already. I'm just going to skip ahead to the armament. One of those 20mm cannons, and nothing else.
Oh no!
You sent a literal pea shooter to an arse-kicking contest, and there was a conclusion to this. Would you like to know what happened?
Did somebody pussy out?
Victoire.
Yes, I'd like to know.
The French fucking ran off, mate.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. You are telling me? I know this is a shocking revelation. The French surrendered?
Yeah, they did. And on the way out, they
Color
decided.
me fucking surprised.
On the way out, because they're like the school bully. They always have to be the last one to get the last dig in. On the way out, one of their boats did in fact ram a British boat. And Boris has had to now make sure one of those gunboats remains off Jersey because of this fishing rights argument. The French
I'm surprised
ran
didn't ram
away.
a boat and that fucking boat didn't just go, whoops.
Honestly, we should have just sent one of our boats through their dinghy they sent to us.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been that much effort.
There are pictures.
You'd be like, oh shit, I ran over a fucking speed bump. What happened?
There were a bunch of satellite pictures, right, that show the displacement of the boats, the above view, where one of our boats is positioned, and how all the other boats scurry in all other directions away from them. I'll put a picture on the our Discord. It's absolutely fucking fantastic.
Oh god.
Macron backed down, and it was just delicious.
Macron backing down. Who fucking surprised?
Problem he has is it's election season for him at the moment.
Yeah, but he's a goddamn fucking pussy, and he's a bad one at that.
He is. I fully agree, and rather tragically, this has cost him because, no, we don't.
He looks weak.
We're not okay with anyone trying to muscle in on our successes. I put the picture on the server for you, by the way.
I assume you are the blue boat.
You would assume correct.
Yep, I see a lot of running. I see a lot of running.
It's so much running. Oh,
Curious, what the fuck's the purple one?
I have no idea what the purple one is.
Oh god.
At this point, it doesn't matter.
What kind of picture is that, real quick? I want to see what happens when the American boats show up.
I don't know. It's just been referenced. It's just I'd have to read more of the article, and I don't have the mental capacity to read it quick enough. I assume it's a GPS one because all boats have them. All boats have a GPS, and so this would be some kind of GPS map. Personally, I just think it's hilarious because the French quit again, and well, we did. When I heard about this, first thing I did was go straight to Spotify and put Rule Britannia on. I was like, that's right, we rule the motherfucking waves. Get good, scrub. You fucking surrender monkeys. I know for a fact there were people in my town, because I walked past these old guys, they were talking about this, and all of them were saying the same thing. They're all facing the sea, essentially facing France on their benches, 2 fingers up, shouting, "We rule the waves. Fuck off, you pricks." It's just... I can totally support this because fuck France. You cowards. You brought a pea shooter. A pea shooter. Amazing. I was very happy. I was very proud of my country at that point.
I'm very happy for you.
Although, and it was pointed out on Question Time with Burko there, he correctly did point out the only reason Boris sent those boats is because of the elections this week. To look good, he did that by sending far too much because he didn't bother with exhausting the diplomatic options. He did speak to people, but then he just went, fuck this, send those boats. Burko's right. He did it because of the election, but at the same time, he still did it.
Fun story, that purple boat is actually what is classified as a pleasure craft. Meaning a yacht, a sailing vessel, or other pleasure craft.
You actually looked it up.
Yes, I'm at marinetraffic.com, which is the real-time traffic for all fucking ships.
What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I'm very happy.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, there's a lot of boats. Oh my god. Yeah, that's pretty nuts, actually.
That's fantastic news.
But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of boats around you guys in particular. There's a lot of boats in the fucking Mediterranean too. Like a lot of boats in the Mediterranean.
That doesn't surprise me. That's some prime fishing there.
Yeah.
And they won't. They don't care for regeneration.
A lot of them are cargo, actually going into the Ukraine and Russia.
That also doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that was my main event for the day. I was very proud of it. I wished I'd put some pictures on the screen. I do apologise. As one last thing, I did put a community tab on this channel earlier with the whip. Trupp saw it yesterday. We had discussed it briefly. I have obviously raised a number of contentions I had with the image that actually, no lie, made me angry when I first saw it, but I'll tell you about that afterwards. It's a whip for a set update, and the reason why is because Trups and I discussed this about incorporating this channel into my vessel as a continuity thing. And so the whip is available for those who want to see where we're going to go. Others have pointed out some issues with it when it comes to the position of all the chairs, but that would be under the assumption that, for example, we would use the entire image zoomed out as far as it is. That's not normally what I do. I would rather have a crop that's more suitable, but it will be taken on board, and we should have it by Tuesday, because I was asked for a 4-day extension owing to issues rendering and colouring and then sending. So you might get to see it next week, but that's not a guarantee. But Trups will. You might not.
Hey.
As a final thing, thank you to the 106 people that now follow us on Spotify. Genuinely very grateful for that. I didn't think we'd hit 100 that quick, but we have. This show...
Thank you guys very much.
Yes.
It's fun.
This show will be on there tomorrow, because I'm going to finish a Content Constable segment tonight, so I'm not going to sort this out tonight. I'll do it tomorrow. Unless there's an issue and Trups isn't here, we should be back next week.
Yes.
In that case,
next week we should be here. The only thing that's going to be a little bit rough is going to be the week after that, but we'll get there.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. If we have to reschedule, we reschedule.
Yes.
So, thank you all very much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. Thanks for liking and donating, and please consider sharing this or giving us a listen on Spotify. We will be back next week. So say goodnight, Trups.
Good night, Trups.
Good night, Trups.